What's your story? We have Duncan sharing with us today. Duncan Locke, it's great to have him joining us to share his story. And there may be things in it that might sound similar to yours, but there's always a difference because everybody has a different story. So welcome, Duncan. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being willing to share your story with us.
Thanks, Amanda. Good to be with you.
So to start with, how about you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood? Were you brought up in a Christian home?
Sure. Yes, I did. I did grow up in a Christian home. Born into a Christian home of Salvationist parents and grandparents on my father's side. So a rich heritage of the Salvation Army. And very, very perhaps typical of a lot of children being born into the Salvation Army. At 16, I became a senior soldier, so I gave my heart to Jesus, and that was very intentional. But at 16, did I fully understand what I was doing? And I think if I look back now in hindsight, the answer is probably not entirely. It was one of those things that you felt, yes, this is the beginning.
So 16 was when you became a senior soldier, was like a starting point kind of thing?
Yep.
So what was your experience of Jesus at that time? And then was it kind of smooth sailing from there and just a continual growth, or?
My experience of Jesus was, I would say that he was a friend. And I probably didn't connect, if I can say, with Jesus in any other way at that time. But 16 years was a very significant number of years for me, because it was 16 that I came to Australia from England with mum and dad. And so it wasn't just growing up, but it was then moving to the other side of the world and growing up in a different country. And you might say, well, so what? But in fact, Salvation Army in Australia we found was very different to what we left behind, or I certainly did. And so that was another new beginning.
Okay. And so what happened from there? Was there ever a moment, like a kind of bam moment where you encountered Jesus, or was it
Yeah, look, my experience has been a gradual transformation over the years. Some people would say I'm a slow learner. If I put it in that sense, it took me a long time to just understand relationship with Jesus. I guess that the first 25 years of my working life, I was working in the private sector, and so I was about 41 when, and that was in the 1990s, and it was a time when interest rates were at 17%. Unemployment was going through the roof, and I was in a work situation where I was retrenched at the age of 41. That was a transformation in itself. Nothing to do with my relationship with God, but my relationship with God was tested incredibly in moving forward from that time.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that, how your relationship with God was tested, and what sort of came out of that?
Look, life was turned upside down, but I had my Salvation Army heritage, and I had my relationship with God. So I turned to people who I thought could help me in that time. I was unemployed for 5 months. And at the end of those 5 months, I was fortunate to find a job within the Salvation Army. in what was in those days Employment 2000 in Clayton in Melbourne. That was a new chapter in my life. And so that started 24 years of working for the Salvation Army as a layperson, but also then moving into ministry. So along over that path of the 24 years, I became increasingly aware of God's real presence in my life, rather than the presence that I thought was right. 2007 was the time when I was really challenged, and I went to Santa Casa in Queenscliff, and for those people that know that place, it's just a beautiful place of rest, of quietness, and it has a very good beach out the back there at Queenscliff. And I had an opportunity in that silent retreat to walk that beach, and it was there that God actually spoke to me like He'd never spoken to me before. I was crying out on the beach to God, saying, "God, show me a new direction for my life." And I was being encouraged into ministry at that time, but I needed a confirmation. I needed it to be confirmed to me. And so that was, if you like, the transformation. That was the real transformation.
Well, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you wanted to share? I don't want to cut you off, but...
No, only one thing I would share. There is a very good hymn that I hold close to me, and that's the hymn, "God Be in My Head." And there's two lines in that hymn. The first line, which is, and I have those words with me, "God be in my head and in my understanding." And I'm so thankful for God's understanding in my life. And then the last but one line, the fourth line in that the hymn says, "God be in my heart and in my thinking." And somewhere the head and the heart came together. So I'm thankful today for God's caring, for the fact that He walks with me each day, that He walked with me that day on the beach, and that was where the transformation, and that I owe everything to Him, where I am today.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable and open with us today.